7 feet tall. That's not just basketball height. That's towering in a sport where the average lineman is already huge. But Richard Sligh, he wasn't just big. He was the biggest, the tallest man to ever play professional football. But who was he? And how did a 7-foot giant only last one season in the NFL? Today, we unravel the legend and the mystery of Richard Sligh. Richard Ellis Sligh was born on August 18, 1944 in Newberry, South Carolina. From a young age, his height set him apart, but it wasn't until college that his football career took shape. Sligh played college football at North Carolina Central University, a historically black university in Durham, North Carolina. While not a major football powerhouse, NCCU offered Sligh the chance to develop his raw potential. As a defensive tackle, he was a physical mismatch, blocking lanes, stuffing runs, and intimidating quarterbacks. Despite playing at a smaller school, his size made him impossible to ignore. In 1967, the American Football League and National Football League were still separate, locked in a fierce battle for dominance and talent. That year's draft was unique. A joint AFL-NFL draft would begin in 1967, but both leagues still had their own late-round selections. That's where Richard Sligh's story entered the spotlight. Coming out of North Carolina Central, Sligh wasn't a household name, but at 7 feet tall, he was impossible to ignore. Scouts from across the league flocked to Durham just to see him in person. Most had never seen a football player like him because no one had ever been like him. The questions came fast. Could he generate enough pad leverage? Could he stay low in a stance without straining his knees? Would he even be able to move quickly enough to react to agile offensive linemen and backs? Yet others were captivated. Raiders scouts reportedly called him an immovable object. With a nearly 85-inch wingspan and a frame that could block passing lanes just by standing upright, he was a defensive coordinator's dream, at least on paper. For the Raiders, who were known for thinking outside the box under Al Davis, Sligh represented a gamble worth taking. A physical anomaly with sky-high potential, literally. In 1967, Richard Sligh suited up with the Oakland Raiders, a team that was redefining the AFL. That season, the Raiders bulldozed their way to a 13-1 regular season record, the best in the league. Their roster was stacked with legends: Daryl LaMonica at quarterback, Gene Upshaw on the O-line, and John Madden as linebackers coach. It was a team built for dominance. Sligh wore number 73. He didn't start games or rack up stats, but he was part of the 40-man roster during a historic season. For a rookie drafted from a small HBCU, that was already a massive achievement. The culmination of that season, Super Bowl II, the AFL champion Raiders versus Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers, the bright lights of Miami's Orange Bowl, over 75 million people tuned in. Sligh didn't record any playing time in the big game, but he was there, on the field, in the locker room, on the sideline, a part of history. That alone puts him in a rare class of NFL players. And while he may have only played in 8 official games during the regular season, his presence was unforgettable. Opposing linemen often looked up at him in disbelief, sometimes quite literally. He wasn't just a novelty, he was a part of one of the most dominant teams of the 1960s. And though his role was limited, Sligh earned a permanent place in football lore. So why didn't Sligh last longer in the NFL? The answer lies in the brutal geometry of football. At 7 feet, Sligh had leverage issues. Lower linemen could get under his pads and move him off balance. Football rewards low centers of gravity, not height. And as a defensive tackle, balance and footwork are crucial. Combine that with knee and back strain from crouching all the time, and Sligh's size, while fascinating, became more of a challenge than an advantage. How does Richard Sligh compare to today's tallest players? Let's take a look. Even the tallest modern NFL players, like Dan Skipper or Calais Campbell, don't match Sligh's height, but they've succeeded thanks to exceptional mobility, refined technique, and body control. Areas where Sligh's raw physical gifts may have fallen short. Still, Sligh remains the record holder. In over a century of pro football, no one has matched 7 feet tall. After the 1967 season, Sligh didn't return to the NFL. He briefly signed with the Cincinnati Bengals in 1968, but didn't make the final roster. He returned to private life, eventually working in education and community service. Though his time in the NFL was short, his story remains legendary. He passed away in 1998 at the age of 54, but to this day he's remembered not just for his size, but for proving that anyone, no matter how different, can make it to the big stage, even the Super Bowl. Richard Sligh may have only played 8 games, but his legacy lives in the record books and in the memories of those who saw him take the field. He was one of one. Thanks for watching. If you love football legends and underdog stories, subscribe to Stellar IQ Media for more deep dives into the most fascinating athletes you've never heard of.